We may have to switch y'all.
Right.
I love your dress. Thank you. Oh yeah, that was the look I was going for. It's hard to find a dress that's not sleeveless. Yeah, well, I do every now and then, but I think probably when I'm out in public, people are going, I don't think so. You shouldn't have done that.
Actually, poor man had to hand coffee to me all day.
No, the biggest guy was right there by the pinch point. That's simple physics.
It's a pretty dress.
Huh?
Beautiful dress.
Oh, thank you. Question.
Morning.
I don't ever anticipate not being here when we have academic distress, but since you've been on the committee a little bit longer, would you sort of be like a co-chair? So if I ever have to be gone, you can, okay. Because you never know. Huh?
You'll be here today.
I will be here today. I will be here today. I fielded calls all last night. The word was out. Let's take over the district. No, they were wanting us to. And I was going, no, that's not what this meeting's about.
But the fact that there was a meeting, they thought that might be.
Yeah. Well, they knew they came in 1 month and then they're coming in another and then Little Rock.
They thought there was a message.
They thought, yeah, and I said, no, we don't.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Very
want
good.
you to run your district.
Hey.
Paying attention.
It was mainly teachers, oddly enough. And I said, well, sometimes what you got is better than what you might get, so you better. Well, it couldn't be any worse, they were saying.
See, we can't make that work.
Yeah.
Folder.
It's hard to listen and not say something that leads them to think something differently than what it is, so.
And yet be meaningful to them.
Well, yeah, because you don't want to, throw water on that. Because I'm sure for some people it would take courage.
It's a line you have to walk, but
Fortunately, I taught elementary, so I know how to deal with playground.
there's some correlation.
And it actually said that to one of them last night. I said, sometimes when people come in off the playground when you're a teacher, you hear this and you hear this, and they both sound really, really stupid. All we're trying to do is be transparent and find out what's going on because we're assuming none of you want to hurt kids.
Well, and keeping them talking to each other. That's part of it too, I think.
Well, you are hard. You may be cheering.
Purposeful last night.
I was worried for you. It looked like you had a lot going on back there. I'm not sure what I'll have at 8:30 next time. She was really tired yesterday because she had gotten up at 4 to come down. So I think the moral of the story is when your chairman come in the night before, it's just too much mental pressure.
When I called down, they said it'd be 12, if the call, usually it's 15 minutes, it'd be 25.
No. Yeah, you want to. We need to get started. Deb hasn't had time this week. No. I think probably should.
I've got a call earlier.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing, because they tell me 25 minutes too. Yeah. Then I thought we could try to make my question. I know, that's what I thought.
I only saw one glass of wine.
I had the exact same, yeah.
She got to be more tolerant than that. She got no business at this age.
So I'll go ahead and call us to order. Our chair will be here shortly, I do think. She is stuck in traffic, so but we will keep moving. The first items of business are a couple of really great recognitions, and the first is the recognition of a 2016 Presidential Scholar, and then after that we'll move to a separate award, and so Dr. Mary Catherine Stein is here for that. Thank you.
Well, good morning to everyone. Glad the rain is coming to an end. It is my pleasure today to introduce you to a very special individual. We have with us this morning Miss Shelby Dunphy Day, and she has been recognized for our state as a top volunteer at the middle level. She's a student at North Heights Junior High in Texarkana, Arkansas, and she is a wonderful spokesman for her project, and I want to turn this over to her so that she can tell you about what her project was that earned her this wonderful award, and she's got her medal on there presented by Prudential. And before I turn it over to you, I want to say that the Prudential Spirit of the Community Awards, I remember writing up these award applications and signing them for students when I was a building principal. And the Prudential Spirit of Community Awards is in its 22nd year honoring youth volunteers. It's in partnership with the National Association of Secondary School Principals and was created in 1995 to recognize middle level and high school students for helping people in need, promoting health and safety, and protecting the environment, or volunteering in other ways. The awards are presented annually on the local, state, and national level. So, Shelby, would you mind telling us about what you've been up to?
Yes. I'm Shelby Dunphy Day, and I put on the Six Leg Fun Run and 5K. Last year was held on January 31st, 2016 at 1 o'clock. Now, the Six Leg Fun Run allows people to run with their animals, or dogs, and it raises money for the local animal shelter in my town, called the Animal Care and Adoption Center. Now, whenever I was little, I was in first grade, they came to my school and brought some puppies and kittens with them. Well, I asked them what do they do with these animals? Well, the answer I got was heartbreaking. So I decided I was going to start raising money for the animal shelter because I have always had a love for animals, so I figured out that this race was a great idea. Now, we are going to put on this race again. It'll be January 29th, and we raised $17,000 last year. We had with 100. We also had 191 runners last year, and half those people brought their dogs. The money from last year and this year combined will hopefully be enough to buy a mobile adoption trailer that our community can use for our community can use and the Red Cross can use for emergency purposes.
All right.
Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you.
So Shelby, where exactly does the race take place?
The race takes place in downtown Texarkana, Texas, and Texarkana, Arkansas.
Great. Well, I think Commissioner Key is coming down to present with the chairman. Yes.
That's an idea that can catch on in a lot of places. Replicate. When she was little. She's still little.
Great. Thanks, Shelby. Thank you so much for being here and for your work. Dr. Stein, one more set of presentations?
One more recognition, and I don't know if this young man is here, but Jordan Lee from Nettleton High School has been named a Presidential Scholar, and his particular area is CTE, which has been added to the categories for our Presidential Scholars. And he will have the opportunity then to compete on the national level. So we're very proud of Jordan Lee as well. And hopefully if he arrives, then he'll receive his certificate. So, thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. All right. And so I'm gonna let the chair take the chair since it's our report.
In Shelby, Dr. Gocher, with our deputy commissioner, is a runner and has a dog. So you might want to give him a flyer for the next race.
I think one thing I like about this particular project is that it can be replicated with relative ease anywhere in the state or the nation, and so I can see why they would have chosen this as the outstanding one.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. My apologies, a little ambitious this morning in trying to squeeze in a meeting, and morning traffic and rain traffic did not work in my favor today, so my apologies to all, and sincere thanks to our Vice Chair, Dr. Barth, for stepping in so seamlessly, and I appreciate that. So to kick us off this morning with our sort of new reporting section, I know I alluded to this yesterday. We still wanted to retain reports from the board itself, and again, if you all remember, we did spend a fair amount of time, our first couple months of this year, with our transitions in terms of laying out liaison positions, committee positions, and such, with the intention that we don't let these fall off the radar, and that maybe we can do a little better role in terms of coming to these on a monthly basis and bringing updates and making sure everyone's equal informed. We greatly appreciate the leadership that each of you all take individually with these roles, but the extent to which we can feed it back into the board as a whole, I think will help inform and maybe even create some more efficiencies, especially as we start trying to tackle some of these issues ahead. And so for my report, I think it's going to dovetail in with other folks' reports, so I'll just allude very quickly and express my gratitude for the opportunity for everyone here at the department that's involved with the Arkansas Teacher of the Year effort. I had the opportunity to be able to be there for our regional finalists, as well as to say a few words to these truly exceptional teachers. Really, when I say the honor was all mine, it really was all mine to get to hear their stories, to see Miss Abels in action. I know we see her in this setting. I have to say, if there's somebody that has a future in motivational speaking, it's Miss Abels. She's so gifted and resonates so strongly with her fellow colleagues. I think she was the real treat of the day, and having her share her story and lifting up with the others. But I think we need to be proud as Arkansas. We are and have these exceptional teachers that really are doing this amazing work and willing to take it to the next level with this process. And so to be able to accompany that and celebrate that, I think is truly humbling. And obviously I want to thank my colleagues here. Several of you all were there present. And so to show that team effort, I think meant a lot as well to the teachers. It wasn't about individuals, a group. So first and foremost, I needed to give my thanks for that tremendous opportunity. And for those of you, as myself, I was trying to poke some details last night out of Ms. Kaufman, Ms. Abels, and let me tell you, these women are tight-lipped and take the secrecy very seriously around who the winner is. But I won't steal any of their thunder, but just to say we will have a winner soon. And all of you, as soon as the governor knows, you all will also have the opportunity. It may be a quick turnaround, but if any of you have the ability to share, the individuals that made the 4 finalists really did come from different regions of the state. So we're hoping at least some of us might be able to celebrate. So that was my main item I did want to share prior to us leading into committees and reports with that. And so unless there's any questions about the Teacher of the Year process, I would like to go ahead and transition into our different committees and liaisons. And the process that I'd like to propose for this moving forward is that we go through each of them as we've acknowledged them. There's a couple additions I would like to add, but I would like to be able to point to each person that has been assigned a liaison or committee role, see if you have an update to share, and then from that, we'll open it up for any additional updates from our colleagues. Does that sound like an acceptable process for my colleagues on the board? Wonderful. So with that, the first of the committees is the Science Grant Manager and Appointment. So that's our science, NASB Science Grant. And Dr. Barth, do you have an update on that today?
Well, really just on the broader issue of science standards and courses, and I think we're starting to get emails regarding some of the course proposals that are out there. The public comment period is underway, and so I expect we'll be hearing more in the lead up to what is the culmination of part of our work, the big part of our work, which is of course approving the standards and the courses. What will then continue is the implementation of science standards, the new science standards in Arkansas, in an exciting way. And so there is work to be done there, and a new effort I know is about to come online with a private sector and folks from the department working together to actually bring science education to life moving forward. So more on that. And so that's it on the science front.
And then if you wanted to lead into the forward.
I expect that many of you saw the announcement in the paper of the 5 forward communities. That was obviously a big initiative of Forward, and those communities, which are in almost all regions of the state, is now underway, and those will be, community-based reform efforts, thinking not just in terms of the schools, but those other entities in the community that can provide the wraparound services, the internship opportunities, the other things that are necessary for communities to thrive and support their schools. I think this initiative is also very conscious, not just of engaging in this work, but measuring what does work, so that those lessons learned can be transmitted to other communities. That was built into this project. The other work of Forward, obviously, on like everyone, getting ready for the legislative session, figuring out the advocacy priorities. I think it's pretty clear that improving the quality of early childhood education in Arkansas is going to be a big focus of that work moving forward. So those are the 2 major areas of activity on the Forward front this month. So I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Barth. For those of us that didn't see the article or announcement in the paper, could you kindly share what are if you recall offhand? Sorry,
I think I can get them all. Crossett, Marianna, and of course the Lee County schools there, Pea Ridge, Springdale, and Batesville. Thank you. I knew I was going to miss one.
And any sense on the type of projects that those were, or any information at this stage?
They are still in the planning stages. I mean, they've certainly they are different communities, dramatically different communities, demographically, regionally, and as a result, I mean, they're going to have very different types of projects, and in each of those communities, there are going to be different entities that are really involved with helping them implement them. They're different partner organizations, and so especially with the rural schools, some of the rural school alliance folks are going to be involved there. It really depends on the nature of the community, and that what plans really kind of come out of that community, and then also how they plan to measure success.
Fantastic. And I'm assuming moving forward, we'll get more information about those projects. Wonderful. Other questions for Dr. Barth? Ms.
Yes,
Hook?
do you know why they, originally, the stated primary focus was going to be to work with schools that were either in academic distress or and I know only one of these communities fits that. And so I wondered if it was discussed as to why the focus shifted.
I have been involved relatively little on the forward communities front in terms of the decision making about which communities. That is something that I know less about. I do think it's very important that there were 50 plus areas of activity in the plan. Many of those did relate to academic distress and altering how we do academic distress, and so I don't think that has been left behind at all. But I don't know the justification with any real specificity on the selection of the communities. There's a separate kind of task force of the Forward Initiative. I'm really more on the advocacy side because it ties to our work here and policy making, and so I was not part of those conversations about how they chose the 5 communities. I will say though that very importantly, the kind of commitment to altering how we deal with academic distress and pre-academic distress has not changed. I will say that the work around ESSA, because there's so much accountability work there and the real conscious effort to try to blend together our federal accountability with new state accountability reforms, I think that their sense was that's where a lot of that energy is right now, is around ESSA, and I think Forward will be engaged on that front as well.
Do you know, are they going to go into a memorandum of understanding with DHS since they are the ones who actually administer the pre-K?
I think right now, I mean, we have existing programs. I don't know what's going to happen there. I think that they are still in the early phases of figuring out exactly what that proposal looks like.
And I understand you're the liaison messenger. But if you would sort of word those questions to them for us.
I will do
for
exactly
me.
that.
And,
Yeah, sure. And I think it's a great question. I think it's, because of the Arkansas Better Chance program, because it is an odd program in that it has a foot in both ADE and DHS. It's a very relevant and important question. And I know it's something they have been thinking about, because I've had some conversations about exactly that issue with them, but to the stage of actually having, and there are lots of conversations going on with DHS because of their administrative role, but whether it would get to a stage of an MOU, I don't know that.
Yeah. Because I know we're all interested in pre-K, and I would think that improving the quality of the current programs, as well as to dovetail with our later presentation about attendance. So if we can get those two things, which would require little, if any, money, and money's tight, but I mean it would require some, but it might not require the amounts that we see put around in the media. But we don't want to expand something until we really have a really good one going on. And also the absentee of the pre-K children, which then goes in and starts when we keep attendance in kindergarten. If we can get a handle on that, and it would seem those two things would really be helpful, and something that Forward, and particularly in the Forward communities, could focus on as well. So
Right.
if you'll sort of word that to the group, I'll appreciate
Sure,
it.
and I'm in conversations with them. And the pre-K issue is a really complicated, it's a lot of different things moving, is that obviously there has not been new money for a good while, or was not new money for a good while until a little bit of money. And that has led to some regional disparities in terms of where programs are accessible. So it's a lot of moving parts there, and I think there's a lot of balancing between those competing issues around pre-K. But I think everybody is in agreement that while the program we have, the original ABC program, really was a hallmark program, that there are as with any policy program, improvements to be made to enhance its effectiveness. And once again, we've got to have good data to actually track its benefit to the state and to those kids.
Thank you.
And thank you for your efforts, Dr. Barth, on both of those. And I realize this was out of order. I should have asked at the time of your update on the science, but I think several of us have probably started getting emails about science courses.
Yeah.
And,
I saw that.
okay, so that's to be expected, I think, is
Yeah, I
lined up
think
with the
so.
timing of what
Yeah,
your
I mean,
report was.
Well, a couple things on that. I mean, there is a built-in feedback loop for input, much as there is with the SSA in terms of opportunity for the community who cannot attend any meetings to still have an input. So I think most of that will come in the form of, new folks may not yet have seen that, but when we get proposals like this, there is a spreadsheet with all the comments and the responses to them. I think that's exactly what we should expect here. I think, is Stacy here? I think she's back. She stepped out for a second. I believe it is probably proper that we encourage folks. Hey, Stacy. Sorry for, yeah. So on the science front, obviously the public comment period is underway. We are starting to get some emails. Would it be the best thing to recommend to ensure that those folks have indeed put their comments into?
Okay. So the survey just closed, all
Okay.
right? But if you get an email, please forward that email to me, and then I will make sure that it is printed and put in with the other comments pertaining to the survey.
Great.
And most of the comments you're getting pertains to that Chem Phys class.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I'm happy to answer any questions if you have some right now about that course, or we can talk about that another day.
I mean, I trust that y'all are going to be grappling with those issues, and I mean, obviously anybody can ask any questions they want, but the important thing is it is going to be discussed as part of y'all's deliberations before bringing the courses back to us.
Absolutely. That's one of the main points that we're talking about. But if you get a concern from one of your constituents, if you will forward that to me, we'll make sure and get that so that it's with the survey results.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And again, apologies for out of order, just connecting the dots as we were moving forward there.
question.
No, thank you so much. For the Deeper Learning Committee, since that is my own and actually deeply tied to the rest of the work session for today, if it's all right, I'll reserve my comments there for how we approach the work session to happen here in a few minutes. And then for our last two committees here, the ESSA Steering Committee, Ms. Newton, I have in the agenda that Ms. Smith would be joining you in making some comments, but if you would like to offer any or defer to Ms. Smith, I leave to your discretion.
Just a couple of comments. We're still, as the committee, we're still in our committee meetings gathering information and looking at the things that are there, but going around the state, I haven't made every listening tour, but I've tried to at least get to one in every region of the state, and surprisingly, there are some things that are in common, but there are a lot of things that are not. And so just a couple of things that maybe that are in common, they're wanting an emphasis on growth. They're asking about a way to track students that year after graduation. What are they doing? Is it career? Is it college? How successful are they being? And then some way or another to align all of the accountability systems, the state, the federal, the ADF, all those, they want them aligned so they're just one. I get my days mixed up, but last week, I believe, or maybe this week, I can't remember. But anyway, at Pine Bluff, there was a big emphasis on making sure that they had an availability of high-quality teachers. They say, and it's true, the best thing that they can do to make sure there's good instruction going on in the classroom is to having that good teacher in the classroom. And so that was their thing, that and high expectations. That they wanted to, I don't know how that would play into our plan, but those were the, I guess, common theme of that listening forum. And Tina's got more information for you.
If I could just kindly ask Ms. Smith before you start, Ms. Newton, what's been the turnout to these listening sessions out of curiosity, and who's been attending?
I have been very impressed. At least 50 or 60, I would think. I haven't counted, but it's been a good turnout, mostly educators. There have been some business people at a few, and they've given good comments. A few parents maybe that came with an educator, but it's been mostly, teachers, administrators, that sort of thing. So those are most of our comments that we're getting from them.
Thank you, Ms. Newton. Ms. Smith?
And I will just start with the Community Listening Forum since she started with that. And the largest attendance we've had was in the 90s, right around 100, and that was at Melbourne. And the other areas have been anywhere from 55 to 75. And I think sometimes everybody doesn't get on the sign-in sheet, so there's always a possibility that there are a few more. Each one of the areas is advertising. It's the STEM centers, the ERZs, and the co-ops in those areas, and they are working together. They're advertising. I know one area even put little cards in local restaurants. They're putting it in the newspaper. They're telling their civic groups. And we're still, just like Ms. Newton said, having a difficult time getting community members and parents to a large degree to these events. They are mostly educators. But still, we are getting a good turnout. I was concerned when we started that we might get 10 when we showed up because evenings are hard for people. Lives are busy. So we are getting good. And the 3 questions that we're asking, the most important characteristics of your school, the most common responses to date, and we have 3 forums left, the Conway area, Springdale, somebody help me, Arkadelphia. Okay. So far on this first question, effective teachers and leaders, student-focused learning, college career and community ready upon graduation, and parent and community engagement. They're saying those are the most important characteristics. The best measures of success or quality, they're saying student proficiency, student growth, graduation rate, and number of AP courses. And Ms. Newton is correct, student growth is the common thread in every place we go, that they definitely want that to be part of the accountability system. The third question, how do we make sure every student in Arkansas has an opportunity for success? Recruiting and retaining effective teachers, effective leaders, having a student-focused learning system, personalized learning, and professional learning communities. Those are the most common responses there. And after we finish all 10 of these, I will compile all of the responses for you, and then how many times those were given at each event. Does anybody have a question about the community listening forums? I do want to say that all of the data, everything that we're getting, we're taking notes during the comment time. That is posted on the ESSA webpage. All of the sheets that are turned into us that people want to share, all of that is posted on the ESSA webpage. You can go right there and click to read everything that everybody is telling us that they're interested in. Any questions about the listening forums? Okay, the ambassadors. We have had, up to this morning, we now have 74 people who signed up to be ambassadors. We've already had 2 listening forums hosted by an ambassador, and I'm going to say, adults, we need to get busy because both of those forums were hosted by our student representative on the steering committee, Anthony Bennett. He hosted a student forum, and he hosted a community forum in his hometown in Ashdown, and he had great feedback from both of those. And so, adult ambassadors, if you're listening, some of you are already planning, and I know that you have some scheduled, but we need to get busy. There is a document on the ESSA webpage that is linked to each, that will tell you when these forums are and exactly where they're going to be and the times of them. So that information is available. At the previous steering committee meeting, it was pretty detailed, wasn't it, Ms. Newton? Mm-hmm. There was a lot of information that we discussed that the steering committee needed to know because of the decisions that we're going to be asking them to help us determine. And it was on assessments, accountability, federal funding, determining the end size. All of those things were discussed, and as we move on with the steering committee, we'll take that information and make some of our decisions for our plan. At the end of our meeting, we had 2 sources of public comment. One of those was from Dr. Ann Robinson, who was advocating for gifted students. And I will say that in some of our listening forums, we've had some comments about that as well. And then we had Ms. Dallas Green, who was advocating for the dyslexia support group. And I will just say that we want this plan to be for all Arkansas students, so we're happy to hear from advocate groups for students anytime. And I will say again, we have an email set up that people can go on and say comments. We currently have a survey on excellent teachers and leaders. Last month, it was on academic standards and assessments, and that survey has closed. You can see that data online. And at the end of this month, the questions that we're asking in regard to teachers and leaders will be posted, and you can go on and take the survey also and give us your opinion. Any questions?
I know I do have one, Ms. Smith. Well, first, congratulations. Those are exciting numbers, and it sounds like you all really have hit the ground running with a very ambitious timeline and a lot to get accomplished. And so for all of you involved, please express to them, everyone in the steering committee, our sincere gratitude for all the personal time that they're putting into this. And I guess it's on the ambassador question. I know that at the end of this month, there's going to be the Opportunity to Learn conference here in Little Rock that entails a lot of nonprofits and advocacy groups, as you had mentioned. I know that they will be doing some informational sessions about ESSA, and I'm just wondering, is there a deadline for sign up for ambassadors? I think part of our hope was after that conference, there might be some groups that might want to sign up and host listening sessions in their communities. Is that too late?
It is not too late.
Okay.
There is no deadline. And what I'm doing is I've already been communicating with the ambassadors, but as every 2 or 3 days I check it, and at least once a week I update information with the new people who've signed up. There is no deadline for that because we want all the input that we can get.
Thank you. Thank you for that information. Yes, Commissioner.
Would just say to that, there is no deadline even after we submit the proposal, because the goal here is that we want this to be ongoing as opposed to kind of how we've done things in the past, because we know that in 3-4 years we're going to be back at this working on an updated submission, a new submission to the federal government, barring any changes being made at the congressional level. So this isn't something you sign up for and there's an expiration date. If you're an ambassador, we would like for you to continue to be an ambassador, and we would continue to encourage others to sign up to be ambassadors, so that as we keep talking about some of these very important issues, they understand that we're not going to stop talking about them in July once the submission is made to the federal government.
Fantastic. Thank you. Yes, Dr. Barth.
This is probably for the commissioner. So one thing I'm a little fuzzy on is, what are you guys envisioning as kind of the formal role for the board in this process, kind of leading to the submission? Obviously, we have important informal role in terms of encouraging education and information, and obviously Ms. Newton's liaison role. But in terms of any kind of formal role, is there a place for this board? Is there going to be? Are we going to see the proposal before it's submitted? Kind of what's that look like?
Yes. There's a 30-day period that the governor has to have, and so we look at that as the governor and anyone else, specifically the Congress said the governor, but formally, these updates and then the board's feedback as these things come together in the written drafts, there will be ample opportunity for discussion with this group on, changes, revisions, tweaks, ideas, thoughts. So it's going to be integrated into the overall process.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and because I know that the law says that state boards, should have, I think the phrase is, timely and meaningful input into the accountability proposal. And so I just I think that is an important part. I mean, the role the eyes that we bring to this. I hope that does happen, and I think along the lines of things you're saying.
I mean, I would say this is part of that.
Oh, unquestionably,
Okay,
unquestionably.
okay.
But I'm just saying that, I think that we're doing the timeliness stuff very well, but obviously it's going to be the ultimate proposal that is where the real meaning is. And so I do think it's important, both, I think it's good policy, but also in terms of ESSA's kind of the role it has explicitly written in for state boards. I think it is important that we have that role towards the end.
And your representation on the steering committee, I mean, that all integrates and directs to, before that deadline comes upon us, that there'll be a lot of meaningful deliberation here before that is submitted.
Great.
Yeah.
And maybe if I could offer along those lines, Ms. Newton, maybe if you garner some ideas through this process of other ways where more of us should be giving input or voice. We, as somebody who plays that liaison role, just know we would appreciate your thoughts on other places or as decisions move forward and things like this, and where you could see maybe additional voices here being helpful to you in your liaison position.
One of the things that I'm seeing right now, I would encourage you, I know there's only 3 left, but if you have not been to a listening forum, you need to go, because, I mean, if you can't hear the voices of the people, then you can't make good decisions. And so, and I know there's only 3 left, but most of them are, let's say, we've got Conway that's fairly close, and Arkadelphia, and then
I'll be at Springdale. You can count on that.
So
I've been
it's close
advertising
enough
it.
that it's within driving distance for you. So I encourage you, if you have not been, go and listen. Just walk around and listen to the people, and to help you make a good decision.
I'm seeing a move to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ms.
I would agree with that, because not only did I get to hear what they were saying formally, but we actually held a reception as well, and then listening to them, over a cookie or coffee or sandwich, and because I'm familiar with the people, and it was held in Melbourne, but it involved Mountain Home, Batesville, Mountain View, all the surrounding areas. And one thing, and maybe Senator Elliott can help with this, we only had 1 representative and no senators show up at that. And because they are the ones who ultimately make the rules and laws by which the schools are governed, if they could come and listen, or if they just go on and listen to the steering committee's meetings, but I really would encourage them to listen, because you get, it's hard for them to talk to everybody, but in that one setting, whether it's 50 or 90, you get, because my representative was there, Representative Michelle Gray, and she took in a lot of information. She's not even on Joint Ed Committee, but if they do, because at some point, maybe we're going to make a presentation to Joint Ed, or maybe the full legislature, I don't know how exactly that works, but the things that we can do to inform ourselves by live streaming y'all's meetings, going to these, I think that helps us and them not have to go over the same things over and over and over again, and so we can do our part to assist them in this and become informed.
Mr. Williamson, I saw you pull your microphone and then push it away. I wanted to give you an opportunity.
How well attended have these meetings been by the board? The next one is in Arkadelphia, Monday, Coach. This Monday? Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, Monday, they're all at 5:30. Monday will be at Arkadelphia at Garrison Activity Center Lecture Hall at Henderson.
On the other side of the ravine, right?
Yeah, sorry. The 24th for the Conway area will be at the Archford Co-op in Plumerville, and Springdale will be on the 25th at the Jones Center.
I thought it was at Harbor. Has it been changed to the
Well,
Jones Center?
Yes.
It has? Okay.
Initially, the people that are organizing it thought that it would be there, and they changed that location probably, I don't know, it's been some time ago.
Okay, I apologize, I didn't, I was going off the original list. So it's the 25th?
Yes, and
Okay.
there is a calendar on the website under Community Listening Forums, and also I think I attached one to your information as well this time. So,
One more comment.
Yes,
The,
Ms. Norman.
if you can't tune into the steering committees live, you can watch them later, at your convenience. And they are presenting, again, lots of great information that would build a bank of information for you to be able to make good decisions later. So.
Fantastic. And if I could just offer one last thing, Ms. Smith, that I'm hoping with this Opportunity to Learn conference, and tied to your comment, both you and Ms. Noon's comment about parents getting more involved in these listening sessions, one of the things I've found, and again, I can only speak to the community with which I organize, which is our Hispanic community, but many of them don't feel they understand enough to be able to contribute to these listening sessions. And so I've been trying to have conversations with some other stakeholders around giving informational sessions first around what is ESSA or what can be, responsibilities, rights, expectations, to then lead into getting some feedback. And that may be a role with the ambassadors, moving forward, food for thought, not just hosting spaces for conversation, but laying the groundwork for a baseline of information so that more people can engage. And I think parents, they care, they just don't always know how to give an informed feedback if they don't always understand how our education system works. And again, I can just speak to Newark, Kansans, but I feel that this may be something that with other communities as well, may be one reason more parents aren't getting more involved. So I'll offer that. Any additional questions for Ms. Smith or Ms. Newton? Otherwise, excellent report. Thank you both so much.
thank you for having me today.
Thank you. Now moving on to our Standing Committee on Academic Distress. Ms. Sook.
Yes, the information was included in your minutes. It was well captured by Ms. Kaufman. If you have any questions, the committee can answer them. If not, then today we'll be meeting with Watson Chapel, Hope, and Pine Bluff. And if you'll look at the bottom of the academic distress agenda for today, it'll tell you which districts will be and when they're scheduled, so that if there is a particular district, or if it's your hometown or a town close to you that you really have a special interest and you're not on the committee, then you're more than welcome at any time to attend that. Any questions? That's all, Madam.
No, thank you so much, Ms. Sook, and a very well-run meeting last month. Enjoying being part of that committee now. Thank you for your leadership. So before we round this off, Ms. Kaufman, just for point of order for the future, if there's no objections from my colleagues, as per yesterday's conversation, I would like to respectfully propose that the Little Rock Stakeholders Group be added on as a special committee to this list for future reports. And as we had spoken about, Dr. Barth being a liaison to that position moving forward, just so that, again, we don't lose the feedback loop that stakeholders group has asked for us. And then the other liaison position that I'd like to propose gets added to this list is NASB, the National Association of State Boards of Education. As you know, we have a rising chair. Our president-elect is Dr. Barth. I've had the privilege this year of coming on as a Southern Board representative, which I think leads me to play a little bit more of the liaison role for at least the present time, in that is very much what my position is envisioned on their board. And then we hope that maybe some more of our new board members may join as well. Obviously, that's an open invitation. The main update I can offer for NASB is obviously the conference that they're having next week in Kansas City. Ms. Chambers, will you be able to attend? Wonderful. We're excited. So I think our delegation, just confirming for all of our colleagues, will be Ms. Chambers, Dr. Barth, and myself. Were any final members able to join? And then, so we will do our best to be diligent in our note-taking. The conversation this time, Ms. Newton, is going to be on ESSA. And so looking forward to this conversation with other state boards, learning what we can, and obviously finding ways to channel this. Ms. Kaufman or Commissioner, I may offer, if there's something that seems especially salient, maybe we can present it to the steering committee at one of your next meetings after the Kansas City conference next week. Maybe if there's an opportunity to present some of our key takeaways to the steering committee, again, to create that feedback loop between what we learned and the steering committee itself that's taking on the leadership. We welcome also as well any other ideas on how to engage in that. I just received an invitation as well as tied to NASB that there will be yet even an additional session that they're hosting in Houston. I don't have the full details on that. Dr. Barth, did you to share with our colleagues?
I think I know what you know. It's
Okay.
pretty limited.
So with the Hunts Institute, that they're going to go even for almost like a 24-hour power session. If that's something you're interested in, Ms. Newton, please let us know within that role. All we've gotten is an email, so I'm not quite sure what the invitee list is, except that I know NASB is working very hard to make sure that state boards like us have the opportunity to tap into as many best practices as possible and collegialism with other state board members across the country, and that we are all going through this together and an opportunity to learn from each other in the process. But if anyone has an interest for that, that literally, I think, hit my email yesterday. So I'll be sure to share that. I would welcome the opportunity to share that with you, Ms. Newton. Wonderful.
And on the stakeholders, that also is live streamed and then archived. So I think to not only get the report of, which Jay will do a great job with that, but to also see the dynamic of the group and the different points of view, because we have a variety of disciplines that are represented on that. So I would encourage you to go back and look at the ones that they've had and then see the ones that they have in the future.
Fantastic. And yes, Dr. Barth.
One more thing on the NASB upcoming meeting. Anthony Owen's going to be presenting too on Arkansas's computer science initiative on a panel on the future of computer science in the United States. So that's another Arkansas piece to the story.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. And just again to clarify, Ms. Kaufman, then, and with my colleagues, so there's no objections with us with this table moving forward, adding the stakeholders group and NASB. NASB, I would, I guess, consider a liaison in terms of the type of role, and stakeholders group would be a special committee for the board, if that sounds accurate to everybody else. Wonderful. Thank you with that. And I will just, one final thing on the NASB note, while we have that opportunity, or while we've been speaking on that, Ms. Kaufman had forwarded an email to me. I did want to make sure all of our colleagues are equally aware. There's actually a sister association to NASB that is for all executive assistants to state boards. And that looks different in every state. But Ms. Kaufman receives the email as our member, as our leader at the helm here. They're currently in the process right now of electing their leadership, which is why she had received an email about that. And we know she has a lot on her plate, but if she ever did want to run, I think all of us would love to endorse her. She's like, please don't. But that opportunity exists as well. And the exciting thing with the NASB conference, Ms. Chambers, next week is they will have a simultaneous conference at the same time, and we will have shared plenaries between the executive assistants and the state boards. So it's an interesting dynamic to see come together. And I know until I went to a NASB conference did I even realize there was a special association for executive assistants. But it's just to show the value that Ms. Kaufman role has, not just for us, but for her nationwide. And I did want to share that as well. So that concludes reporting item number 2 on our committees and liaisons. So we'll now move on to report 3, the commissioner's report. Commissioner Key, you're recognized.
I have 2 things for you this morning. One, all of you should have received a one-page sheet that looks like this with some bar graphs, information on, okay. So last year, we were notified of a grant opportunity by Dr. Gary Ritter, and it was from the Jack Kent Cooke Foundation. And the grant opportunity was where they were trying to identify states and assist states in reducing the gap between low-income and minority students with respect to AP and IB classwork. We submitted for that grant. We weren't selected But the organization that the Jack Kent Cook Foundation works with, Equal Opportunity Schools, in reading our grant proposal, they were intrigued enough to reach out to us and say, you didn't get the grant, but we are interested in having a conversation with you anyway. We'd like to see if maybe there are some opportunities for partnership with Arkansas. So 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting at the Southwest Power Pool with a number of representatives from districts around the state, with other advocates, and with the Equal Opportunity Schools team that came in. And this is some information that they provided. So as you see, the gap of underrepresented students enrolling in AP and IB is over 8,000. Now, our numbers, we did a similar analysis, and we showed that we were about 6,000. So whichever number you pick, it's still a lot. So Ms. Newton talked about, especially in Pine Bluff, at our listening tour, they talked about the need for high expectations. And that's one of the areas where I think in Arkansas, we have not always held high expectations for certain groups of our students, and that's wrong. And this is a way to attack that misperception that there are certain groups that, either because of race or income, that they are not as likely to succeed in AP and IB higher level classes. So it was a good conversation. We have a number of districts who are interested in working to reduce those gaps. We are committed to that, and working with Equal Opportunity Schools. And this organization was started by an educator, Reed Saris. Equal Opportunity Schools partners with schools, districts, counties, and states to close those gaps. And they have a tremendous amount of expertise. And they've committed to Arkansas. Depending on the number of districts that commit, they hope to have a cohort of maybe 8 to 10 districts that will step up. Their focus is at the high school level. We have a number of districts already engaged in some of this work, and Dr. Ken James and the work that is going on with Ames that already pushes some of that down to the lower levels, trying to prepare teachers, trying to prepare students for that higher level coursework. This work would not replace anything Ames is doing. Actually, Equal Opportunity Schools works in conjunction with other state organizations like Ames. So really it's an all-hands-on-deck approach. So we're encouraged by the possibilities here, and districts now are deliberating as to whether they want to be involved in this work and use the supports and resources of EOS to help move us forward. So I feel like that in the context of, as we're talking about student-focused education, really redefining and transforming education in the state of Arkansas, this is one of those areas that should be easy. It's just a matter of identifying those students and encouraging them to get into those classes. And it's not about, as they point out, it's not about the 3, 4, 5 on the AP exam. It's about the rigor of the classwork and giving them that foundation that would help them be successful. Questions on that before we move to the next one?
Oh, that's very exciting. I just have one question, Commissioner. Thank you for letting us know about this opportunity. As with other opportunities, I think that have come, forward. I'm always concerned whether the districts that need this the most, because there's so much volunteerism entailed, right? They have to self-identify that they want to do this. Are we, at least through our intensive support teams and Dr. Harvey's teams and such, is there those, and I guess kind of an encouraging going on from department leadership or those specialists that are working in the schools, and especially our academic distress schools, to take advantage and avail themselves of these opportunities? Is there some communication going on in that realm to really try and get to the districts that need it most to take advantage?
Well, we're in the early stages. So certainly something that can be done, but right now we're working with those districts that really do self-identify, and many of those districts that were in attendance were larger districts because you have a larger base of students. but we don't think we should limit it to those larger districts. We want to push this into even the smaller districts, but it's going to be a gradual process and working with and building some momentum to show that, yeah, this does have a positive impact. So it'll be something that we continue to work with districts to encourage them.
Thank you. Okay. I don't see additional questions, Commissioner.
Okay, so are we ready with the next video? So we're very excited to present the latest video in our innovation series.
A library is a community. It's a place to have interest for everyone. There's something for everyone here.
A high school library is usually a place reserved for reading and doing research. Stoney Evans, the library media specialist at Lakeside High School in Hot Springs, along with his staff and teachers, worked together to introduce the award-winning book Out of the Dust to 8th graders. But quiet is not the word to describe this school's library.
Oh, maybe that's him. Yeah! That's him! Woo! I'm telling you, that man out there knows something to fear, and that thing gets all over everything. Welcome to the 1930s. The setting is Joyce City, Oklahoma. Yeah!
During the interactive experience, called a collaboration, students moved from station to station where they listened to music, speeches by FDR, and ate food, all from the Great Depression era, which was the setting of the book.
I would say the collaborations are both fun and different, but you learn very much at the same time. You know, it is a lot of fun to come down here with your friends and eat food from, the book that you're reading about. It really brings the stories that you're reading about out off the pages into life.
So I think a collaboration like that comes together when teachers come to us with ideas and they share, hey, what if we tried this? And then our team shares the same thing. Hey, well, what if we tried this? What if we dressed up like farmers for the Dust Bowl to try to make an experience for these kids that they will never forget? So how in 50 minutes can we bring them in here and introduce that book to them in a way that will help them understand it better, that will get them excited about the content?
But it just feels like they've learned a lot, more about the topic and the time period than they had before. So I think it would have been a more traditional, here is a reading comprehension sheet and let's read this and analyze it together, instead of, all right, let's go, let's get to the different stations, which is what we do now.
One of the biggest things I've seen is the difference is now all of our teachers are collaborating with our librarians and our media staff, and they're co-teaching like in a classroom setting. They'll bring their classes in here and they're using the library as an extension of their classroom, not just sending them in here to research. They're actually coming in here, teaching the class, and using our media staff too.
This special place was once two separate libraries, but now one side is devoted to nonfiction and one to fiction.
We can move the bookshelves out of the way, and we can have a great Gatsby dance session happening right here where I'm sitting, or we can have a student on the stage presenting a poetry slam or a musical performance, which we've had those.
We use Mr. Evans, his staff, in this library almost like an innovation center. This is an area where teachers, students can have a voice. They can brainstorm ideas. They can talk about possibilities.
I like to read a lot, and he encourages me a lot to write sort of a blog about it, sort of review books and say what I think, since that's something I really like to do. So they're always just there for me, trying to help me figure out what I do in life and how I can best use my talents to achieve that.
A lot of the professional development that we've done, even for staff this year, was student-led, because we have found students that love specific things, and we just empower them and give them the tools that they need and let them go, and they're teaching our staff.
I would like other students to know that you don't have to absolutely love to read to love a library. a library is a community. It's a place to have interest for everyone. There's something for everyone there.
Is just to be a place where our students want to come, where our teachers want to come, where they know that when they come to us with questions, that we're going to serve their needs to the best of our ability, or if we don't know the answer, that we're going to redirect them to that solution that they're looking for.
But I think when you take passionate people and you take eager kids, and when you mix those together, and the sky's the limit.
I'm not going to handcuff them. I'm not going to hold them back. I want them to go forward, and I'm going to support them in everything they do.
Make sure your kids are going to the library. That's what I would tell administration. Go in your library and see how many kids are going there. And if your kids aren't going to the library, it's just a space.
Maybe the conversation should be, how can we better prepare students for the future by creating lifelong learning experiences for them in these spaces?
So another great production by our production team. Just thank Gail and Kevin and Cindy and the whole team for, they just seem to outdo themselves every time. And we, it's funny because, you know, we have schools saying, hey, could you do a video on us? And we would love to do videos on every school that has something really innovative and engaging. Sadly, we just don't have the capacity to do that, but I'll make the offer again. If any district has their own video that they would like for us to help promote and link from our website, that is always an option. So we're excited about a lot of the just truly, for lack of there's no better word, engaging. The way they are engaging students in different learning opportunities. So kudos to the folks at Lakeside.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. And I think one of the things that excites me with this, I feel when we see a lot of the waivers and projects that come before us, and this isn't negative, but there's been a lot of focus as of late on career education and project-based learning, and innovation's bigger than that. And I think this is one of those videos that points to it. There's a lot of different ways and a lot of different administrators, teachers, individuals, entry points into innovation. And I think the fact that this was selected as one of those, I think is absolutely amazing to give a highlight and to hopefully inspire creative thinking in different ways. So thank you for that, Commissioner, and thank you, Gail and Kevin, once again for those efforts. So our last two reports, my understanding is will be presented together. And so with that, I'd like to recognize Ms. Angela Duran, Director for the Arkansas Campaign for Grade Level Reading, as well as Ms. Junie Blankenship, Education Policy Director at Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families, to speak to us today about chronic absence. So Ms. Duran, you're recognized.
Wonderful. Thank y'all so much for having us this morning. Oops, I just screwed that up already. Okay. Yes, I am with the Arkansas Campaign for Grade Level Reading, and thank you. That's not my forte. So, as y'all may remember, the campaign was launched back in 2011 by the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation, and our whole goal is that every child in Arkansas can read on grade level by the end of third grade. We are a statewide collaborative of over 25 organizations, and the Department of Education is one of our key partners in this effort. Through the collective work of all of these partners, we have focused on 5 areas that impact grade level reading: engaging parents in their children's education, ensuring that children are ready for kindergarten, and yes, we are partnering with Forward on their efforts around pre-K and applaud their work there. We applauding the work that the department is doing around ensuring that the best strategies for teaching reading are being used in the classroom. A 4th area for us is stopping summer learning loss. And then finally, we think it's really important that children are in class every day so they can learn. So I want to turn it over to my colleague, Jenny, who is going to share with y'all some results from a recent report analyzing data that the Department of Education shared with us. And then I will come back and just for a few minutes talk to you about some work we are doing with schools around the state And as the commissioner was talking about your latest innovation video, you may remember last month the video that you watched was on Monitor Elementary in Springdale, which is one of the terrific bright spots we have of this work. But let me turn it over to Jenny right now.
Okay, great. Thank you, Angela, and thank you to everyone here today. I'm Jenny Blankenship. I'm Education Policy Director for Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families. And Advocates has been proud to be a part of the campaign for grade level reading since its beginning here. And I think Angela deserves an awful lot of credit for bringing this issue to the forefront in our state. And we're really excited about a lot of the work that's being done on the campaign as a whole. And I'd also like to note that the credit for the analysis included in the report, and I think you all have a copy of that now, actually belongs to my predecessor at Advocates, Catherine Hazlett. As our Advocates' former education policy director, she worked with ADE to analyze the most recent data on statewide student attendance, test scores, and demographics for all K-3 students in the state over the past 3 school years. And in part due to changes in the state assessments, as you know, over the past couple of years, and just for simplicity's sake in doing a digestible report like this, you'll find that the report really focuses on a snapshot of data in 1 year, and that's 2014-2015 school year. So just with that caveat, this is just a snapshot of 1 year worth of data. We certainly can't go into exploring causation in any of this analysis, but I think the correlations are still really important to pay attention to, and we hope to continue to study this over time so that we can become more informed about how widespread the problem is and what are some of the implications. And I will just say that the results of our analysis on this data in Arkansas are very much in line with the research that has been conducted all over the country on chronic absenteeism. So the first major finding is simply that chronic absenteeism is a widespread problem in Arkansas, and it's one of those problems that's kind of always been under the radar. We found that more than 12% of K-3 students were chronically absent in the 2014-15 school year, and that's over 17,000 students. Chronic absence is generally defined by researchers as missing 10% or more of the school year. In Arkansas, that's roughly 18 days of school. So, and that's whether the absences are excused or unexcused. So, to many parents of young children especially, it seems like, missing a few days here and there is not going to make that big of a difference if you have a student in kindergarten or first grade. I have a kindergartner myself, and our data shows that those absences actually start to add up pretty quickly when you don't really take them that seriously at a young age. Missing just 2 days of school each month is the equivalent of missing an entire month of learning in the school year, and it matters. Our research found that students who were chronically absent in kindergarten and first grade were less likely to be reading on grade level by the end of 3rd grade. And again, as other research has found, and Angela can tell you a whole lot more about, most students who cannot read on grade level by the end of 3rd grade continue to struggle throughout their academic career. And when that happens, these students are more likely to drop out of school. They're far less likely to pursue higher education and find good paying jobs. That's not just speculation on our part, that is the statistical reality in our country. So reading by the end of 3rd grade matters. These effects are cumulative. So we have a couple of slides that I want to go through. On the first slide, if you could go back just one. Thank you. You'll see that chronic absence starts early. It's at about 16% in kindergarten, And then you'll see it sort of dips down until about 3rd grade. And of course, this report only focuses on K through 3. But just to give you a little bit of a broader context, what you'll see nationwide is that it's kind of an inverse bell curve from kindergarten down to 3rd grade, and it kind of levels off, and then it spikes back up again all the way till 12th grade. And that's generally the pattern across the country, just to give you some more context. So don't assume that just because it's going down to 3rd grade that it levels off forever or continues to drop. It continues to be a problem. On the next slide, thank you. Chronic absence is worse among certain schools. In the year of our analysis, 25% of chronically absent students were concentrated in just 52 of the state schools. So some of those schools may need some more intense intervention and training on that. On the next slide, you'll see that chronic absence is significantly worse among students who are eligible for free and reduced price school lunches. And over 60% of all students in our state qualify for this assistance. So poverty is clearly a problem, and this problem is widespread, and that should surprise none of us. Also on this slide, you'll see that K-3 students with disabilities were also more likely to be chronically absent compared to their peers that did not have disabilities. That can be due to a number of factors. And these students usually need even more support to stay on track academically throughout school. The next slide, you'll see some racial disparities within the data. And interestingly, Hispanic students were the least likely amongst African American white students and Hispanic students to be chronically absent. I have no explanation for that. I just thought it was kind of interesting to point out.
Mariah's work is working.
Yes. Good job, Chair. Good job. Thanks. And then quickly moving to the next slide. I know I'm going through this quickly, but stop me if you have any questions. Once again, chronically absent 3rd graders were less likely to read on grade level than those who attended regularly. So only 20% of 3rd graders who were chronically absent in 2014-15 were reading on grade level. And interestingly, if you go to the next slide, you'll see that even higher income students are more likely to have lower reading scores if they are chronically absent too. So this problem affects everyone, and it not just affects the students who are chronically absent, it affects their peers in their classes who often have to have instruction slowed down to get a lot of other kids up to speed if they're missing a lot of school. The good news that comes out of this report is that there are many simple, low and no cost things that schools can do to reduce chronic absenteeism quickly and dramatically. And we're going to give you some concrete examples here in a minute. And that certainly is not something you can say about many issues in education, right? It starts by simply paying attention to the data and emphasizing the importance of attendance as part of your school culture. So as one of our case studies, we looked at Parson Hills Elementary School, which is in Springdale. And their school leaders started taking a closer look at their school's attendance data in 2012-2013. And they were surprised to find that 15% of all of their students were chronically absent. They were able to slash this rate to 5% within just 2 school years. I mean, that's a dramatic improvement in a very short amount of time. And they did this by simply encouraging teachers to pay attention to the data on a daily basis and head off problems before they started to snowball throughout the school year. And just emphasize the importance of attending school to students and parents and letting them know, hey, if you miss school, we miss you. We care about you. We want to know that you're okay. They started looking at it as an early warning sign After a student misses a certain amount of school, especially early on in the school year, that there may be something wrong at home that they need more, their whole family needs more help with. Simple things. They rewarded students who regularly came to school through pizza parties or just giving them gift certificates for free ice cream in the community. That may not sound like a big deal. I have a kindergartner. Let me tell you, if he had the chance to win a free ice cream, he would be out of bed every single day forever. So they started, looking at it as an early warning sign. Transportation is a huge issue that affects chronic absenteeism. If you don't have a way to get your children to school, maybe you have children that go to multiple schools and you're trying to get them everywhere and get to work on time. Or if one of your children gets sick, sometimes everybody ends up staying home that day. So even the non-sick sibling is missing that school day as well. Another thing that they did was have a community liaison to reach out to the Marshallese families who may not speak English or really understand, how to navigate the school system or find the help that they need in their community on things like transportation or healthcare or other issues. So that seems to have made a pretty big impact there too. And Angela will talk more about good things that are happening at the school level around the state. So what can you do at the state level to help address this issue? Based on our own analysis and reports that keep coming out around the country, we suggest just 4 simple things that you can focus on to help reduce chronic absenteeism. First of all, the state doesn't really have an official definition of what chronic absenteeism is. Researchers, the general consensus is that missing 10% of the school year is considered chronic absenteeism. We don't have that defined anywhere in Arkansas in state statute or rules or regulations. So that's the first step, is just defining what does it mean to Arkansas. Second of all, we need to inform parents about schools' overall absence rates. So this could be something that's easily included on school and district annual report cards, for example. Thirdly, the state should use or include chronic absence in data systems that are used daily by teachers and administrators to inform early warning systems, and just really encourage them to pay attention to that. And then lastly, you're all in the middle of the process of creating a plan for ESSA, and as one of the measures that you can use on assessing school and student success, chronic absenteeism could easily be one of those issues. So, and I'd be happy to talk about that more at one of your stakeholder meetings in the future. So, just to conclude, everyone's always looking for low-hanging fruit in education, okay? Something that doesn't cost a fortune, doesn't take a ton of time to train people, doesn't take a lot of staff capacity or time, or have a huge political battle to face or controversy among the people you represent. And chronic absenteeism is that fruit. I'm here to tell you. It's time to pick it. The solutions are simple. They sound almost too good to be true. It's common sense, but the bottom line is it's about relationships that educators need to build with families and their own students, and let them know, we notice when you're gone, we care, how can we help, how can we partner with other people in the community to make sure that you have what you need to be in school every day, learning with your peers, and getting up to that grade level reading. So the report that I gave you is technically still a draft, even though I didn't stamp it that way. We're still working out some pretty graphics, whatever. The content is still the same. And so we'll put the final report on our website and on Angela's website for the campaign for grade level reading, lots of other issues. We have national partners that have a wealth of resources about what you can do at the state level and what schools can do. And I will turn it back over to Angela to talk more about what principals have been doing around the state. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'll just be real quick here. So we have these awesome bright spots, the 2 schools in Springdale and 1 in Marvel. So over the last 3 years, we've been working with several schools in Springdale, the 1 in Marvel, and several in Fort Smith. And really, and based on their experience, and if you can put that last slide up there, today we are launching, oops, there we go, a principal's toolkit that's based on all of the work that we've done in those schools, plus what our national partner Attendance Works has done. So this is an online toolkit. It's chock full of information. It's got posters, parent handouts, letters that are already drafted that can be sent home to parents. We have been working with the department on a data solution using Cognos, so instructions for how to pull that are up there. We have drafted a model local attendance policy that schools and districts can use that we did with our local partners. So all of those resources will be available. We are also broadening the districts with which we're working on a more intense basis, thanks to the support of Commissioner Key and working with Stacy and working through the co-ops. And so this fall, we've already taken a deeper dive with Atkins, Greenbrier, Hope, Hot Springs, and Western Yell County. And then in December, we are planning some meetings in the Northwest, Guy Fenter, and DeQueen Mena areas. So we're hoping to have tens, hundreds of schools and districts taking a deeper dive on chronic absence over the next couple of years. So, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ms. Blankenship and Ms. Duran. This is incredibly helpful to have, and at this time, as you all mentioned, with conversations around ESSA and just general work that's being done in our schools, to be able to highlight specific issues and to feel that there's some low-hanging fruit, right? That prioritization is something that I think very much resonates with all of us here. With that, I just had one question. You had referenced 52 schools where we see the majority of this chronic absence. I'm assuming you all have that list of those schools.
We actually don't, because
Okay.
the data we received was de-identified, so.
Is there a way to know what those schools are, or which of those schools are?
I think the department will have to answer that
Okay.
question. Yeah.
Okay, to be able to communicate that, I'm just wondering with the communication loop, if that's what's been identified, can those schools be made aware? I'm assuming part of your strategy that you've laid out gives you some idea of where the schools may be, then I'm assuming your rollout strategy aligns with that. But if there is a way, I think, to make them aware that they are a school that's been identified in this, or if there's things that we can do to support that happening, just know that that's something I think we can continue in terms of supporting that. I am going to be curious to hear what the commissioner, what he thinks on some of these state policy recommendations that you all have laid forth, of which of these we're doing and or could engage in, and Ms. Newton, as well with ESSA, if there's some opportunities since that was listed here. And I think some of my colleagues may have some other questions as well. But Commissioner, I didn't know if you wanted to make some comments and reactions to the state policy recommendations that I've laid forth.
Some of these would certainly fall under the realm of legislative initiatives. As far as using this as an accountability measure, this is the kind of specific idea that we've been looking for that is hard to, because we've been so centered around test scores, that it's been difficult for folks to suggest specific things. So we appreciate this one being, and we know other states are looking at this specifically as an option. The data, I think when Dr. Saunders presents on My School Info and the work that he's doing there, may be a good time to explore what will be available in that revamped tool, and if there are suggestions or ideas that we have, then we could talk about that. But I know that's coming up in a work session soon.
Next month, on the 10th.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Yes, Ms. Newton.
I just had a question. How are you getting the information about this toolkit out to principals?
So there's an e-blast probably going out right now to every principal and superintendent, elementary principal and superintendent in the state.
Okay, so it's just going by email. Okay, here's a suggestion. They get bombarded sometimes by emails, and they get busy and they forget. I know at our co-op, the principals have a monthly meeting. I would really suggest doing something like what you just did for us at that monthly meeting, and making principals aware of how big of an issue it is, and then show them the resources that are available. There's something about that face-to-face communication that will really bring that to their mind and make it have that much more importance than just another one of the 30 emails they get today.
Well, I will say I think spoke to 10 of the 15 co-ops over the summer on this topic, but
Good.
it's probably time to do another round.
Okay,
so, yeah.
good.
Very excellent suggestion, Ms. Newton. Thank you. Ms. Abels?
I was just curious if you could take this PowerPoint and put it into a one-page informational for parents, because parents, I don't think, truly understand. Those numbers are very shocking. And for them to say, oh, you don't have to go to school today, well, they may think twice when they look at these numbers. So maybe, you know, it wouldn't really be feasible to give them a PowerPoint, but if you could put it into a one-sheet information of here's what's going to happen when you make the choice of not letting your kid go to school today.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if you were doing that at all.
We actually already have some resources, not exactly those slides, but some handouts we've already developed for schools to give to parents with that information. So, but yeah, thank you.
Dr. Hill?
I was just I wanted to piggytail off what you said. I think it would be interesting to see what, if we ever could find out those 52 schools, which one of those won't academically stress. Because,
Exactly.
I mean, when you're not going to school, you know, can end up to that. So I think that information is just so important that we find it, because there may be a correlation to that, not just, you know, you can't learn if you're not there.
That's right.
Excellent point. Yes, Ms. Zook?
And I think to piggyback off that as well, as my fellow board members know, and anybody that comes to the board meetings, I'm obsessed with absence of teachers. And I don't know if that would be considered low-hanging fruit where you could collect data or some other group could collect data, but there are many of our academic distress schools where the students' attendance is better than the teachers. And you can't learn if you're not there, but you have a harder time learning if your teacher's not there. So just throw it up in the air for anybody that wants to grab that fruit.
Amen, Ms. Zook.
Additional questions or comments from the board? Otherwise, thank you both so much for your time, for sharing this, not just for today, but obviously all the work that both of your organizations and you both individually have put into this. As you all have noted, and we'll continue to talk about today, we're going to be tackling several of these issues in different ways over the course of this year. So we will definitely be taking you up on your invitation to come back if and as these kind of correlate and we have a little bit more clarity. Hearing about your proactiveness and what you all are doing is extremely helpful, and I think it's those types of partnerships where all of us are in this together, working toward these solutions, is what gives me hope at the possibility of actually seeing change. So thank you both so much for this. Thank you. So with that, our final report for the day is Ms. Abels.
As they say, last but not least, I wanted to do two things with my report today. Number one, most of you asked me about my school visits around Arkansas and what I learned and what I'm doing with those visits. And I thought maybe I can do two things today. Show you what I'm seeing in these schools across Arkansas and how those things that I'm seeing can lead to the development of ESSA the right way. Because schools are teaching to the whole child. And what you're going to see today are images from several different schools, including Stuttgart, DeWitt, Crossett, Star City, Dumas, Marlboro Lane, Sheridan, Woodlawn, Quitman, Pine Bluff, Springdale, Van Buren, Pinnacle View, and Lake Hamilton. And I want you to see that these teachers are really trying to be innovative, real-world learning in their classroom. And when it's time for us to sit down at the table and put together what ESSA should be about in the whole child, this is the visual image of what that should look like. So I'm going to let them go ahead and play the pictures for you to watch.
And your selfie.
So when I think about ESSA, and I think about the whole child, and I think about the Commissioner's vision for excellence, these pictures represent what all of that should be. These schools are doing great things, and as teachers, we are so happy that the focus is no longer going to be on one single snapshot of a child, what they know on a test in a snapshot, but what they're doing to develop their whole being from head to toe and heart. And so I'm real excited about what's coming with ESSA. Teachers, for the most part, are telling me student growth, exactly what you've said today. Let's measure where our students started and where they've ended as a whole child, not just on a test. And I think it's such a great opportunity. I'm excited about this change. And I want you to know I have a lot more to learn. In just the next month, I'm going to about 12 more schools. So I look forward to getting more ideas to bring to the table, not only for ESSA, but just for schools to share across the state. If you want to read more in particular about what you saw, you can go to my blog, arteachblog.wordpress.com. And every school that I go to, I write a blog about what other schools can learn and implement from that school. I have to tell you, this week I went to Quitman, Arkansas, and these students take a home building class for 3 years. When they are done, every year they build a house from the ground up. Every year, from September to March. They auction it off, and the next year they start over. These kids, when they leave this 3-year program, can immediately get a job making $12 an hour. They're ready to walk in there. Now, mind you, those same kids may not perform well on a state test, but they're ready to go into this world and contribute to it and to really reach their dreams. So I just think all of these kind of go hand in hand, and I hope some of you will join me on my upcoming visits. I sent Ms. Kaufman a list of those, and she's going to be getting those to you. Does anyone have any questions?
What's that address again?
Oh, arteachblog.wordpress.com.
And can you share as well the Facebook group that you manage? I've
Yes.
recently
Yes.
asked to become a member and have been enjoying that as well.
Arkansas Teacher of the Year is a Facebook group, mostly for educators, but what I found is this. But when I go visit a school and I promote what that school does, the community gets so excited about it that they want to join my Facebook group too and learn about other schools. So right now I have almost 1,800 people in my group, and a lot of stuff is shared out around, and I'm just really excited about that. And I'm really trying to be a liaison between schools and between the board and the department and what's going on, and it's just been really great so far.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Abels. We continue to look forward to your monthly reports. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Yes, Ms. Newton.
Just a comment, I was able to go with Megan on a trip to DeWitt and Marvel Lane, and it really helps to get out and see what's going on in the schools. So if you get a chance to go with Megan, you think she's excited here, you should see her in the school.
Thank you. And that's the perfect note on which to adjourn our reporting session of this meeting and into which to start the work session for today. So if I could just get a motion for formally adjourning the reporting session of today so we can move into the work session.
So moved.
Do you want to turn yours into a second, Ms. Sook?
I'll second it if you'll give me a brief break in between.
Okay, wonderful. So Dr. Barth made the motion, seconded by Ms. Sook. All in favor? Aye. And we will take a 5-minute break. So we'll reconvene at 10:45.